So, thank you for attending the press conference. Most of you would agree with me that we're in a kind of a bizarre existence. The country keeps drifting, leaderless. We're wandering aimlessly. There is a policy vacuum at the national level. The government seems hell-bent on traveling around Guyana in a circus, going from community to community, filling people's heads with lies once again, with the strange belief that somehow people will forget the reality of their daily existence. And the reality of the daily existence in Guyana is that we don't see hope or a brighter future tomorrow because this government has not created the conditions for that to happen. So we will keep losing jobs. Crime will continue to escalate. We will keep losing welfare as a country. People will take advantage of us from abroad because our government does not represent us vigorously. And in the meanwhile, we'll have a government that continues to claim they're doing a great job and they're looking out for our country and we're closer to the better life. And so we have to address this situation as Guyanese. And the only way we can fix this is bringing home the reality of what is ordinary people are faced with. So let me give you some examples of the bizarre explanations, again the bizarre word, the bizarre explanations we're getting from ministers. So corruption suddenly, when it rears its ugly head in the APNU AFC quarters, and this has happened so often that this has become a pattern now, is responded to by lengthy statements, and these statements are peddled on the state media as though they're facts. So just recently, Minister Cathy Hughes has been in the media where one of her companies, without any tender, got a contract from the Department of Energy, a contract to do some demonstration videos, demos, for a bigger project. Now, normally, when you do demos, that's part of your pitch for the work. But here, this company was paid for their demos. And if they were paid nearly $1 million for the demo, I keep wondering, had we not exposed this scandal, how much the main contract would have been? Because if you're paying $1 million for demo. So when this was exposed, the minister issued a statement, and she said, this is on April 9th, she said, in May 2015, upon my assumption of the role of Minister of Tourism, I relinquished any involvement in the day-to-day running of video mega production. That is not true. Until late last year, checks were being signed from this company by the minister involved. That testifies to day-to-day running of the company. She said she had relinquished responsibility, but she has been signing checks to suppliers on behalf of this company until late last year. That's a lie. Secondly, on April 15, the minister, after there was an article critical of the conflict of interest issue in the Starbuck News, she berated the Starbuck News about the issue, and in a statement from her, she quoted nearly half of the Integrity Commission Act, and then ended up in the statement saying in July 2018, she fully disclosed her interest in Video Mega Production Limited to the Integrity Commission. So if you gave up the day-to-day running of the company, and you have to file your submissions to the Integrity Commission, you do not file your integrity statement only on the basis of ownership of assets, but also income earned from those assets. So how much income, so she had to know whether Video Mega Production earned income to do a true representation to the Integrity Commission, and it would be interested to find out how much income she filed that came from Video Mega Production to the Integrity, in her filings to the Integrity Commission, how much she placed there. So again, it was, she had to know of the affairs of the company as late as July 2018. That is from her filings to the Integrity Commission. And as I said before, checks were signed. So clearly, we see a pattern of deceit here, lies, a pattern of lies. Now, what I would like to find out is how many contracts did Video Mega Production Limited get from 2015 to now, when Cathy Hughes became, from the time Cathy Hughes became a minister. 2, whether those contracts were tendered. 3, what was the value of those contracts. We can leave it there for the time being. And just as I was coming to this press conference, someone called me, and it would be worth checking this issue, that some of the staff at Video Mega Production Limited also are working at the ministry. They're paid from the public purse. So this will be worth exploring in the media. So now we have seen this all. It's a pattern of deceit, lies. And the AFC issued a statement, and the DPI and all of the others, they've captured state resources now to use for party purposes. In fact, we are paying the taxpayers of this country for them to peddle the lies back to us. That is what we are paying for. So this warrants a full-fledged investigation, including by the police. And this might be a real issue that the police will want to look after. The Minister of Housing, I think, what has happened there, and I saw a report today in the Kaichur News, which raises 1 million questions more about what is taking place in that ministry. And so it is not just the conflict of interest and the lies told, but now it seems as though the ministry facilitated the subcontracting, which they had no business doing, and that relatives of the husband and the minister are now are part of that process, the procurement and the witnessing process. So how, and these are employees of the ministry. So it's not just that the husband may be getting the contract now, but you have relatives who work in the ministry who are now witnessing these contracts and signing on to them. You know, this brings us to an issue we've been saying along, and I think Volda Lawrence made it clear. We are going to give friends and family. We're going to give friends contracts. Friends, so it's friends and family. Forget everyone else. And this is precisely what we're seeing happening there. Friends and family, the contracts, through a corrupt act. And secondly, and this warrants a full-fledged investigation also by the police. And then we have seen it at places like the DPI. The DPI and Chronicle and all the agencies under Prime Minister Nagamutu have become a cesspool for hiring leaders of the AFC and their families and giving them illegal contracts. A cesspool. That's the depth. If we only investigate that too, and the skeletons, you just open the cupboard, you would have so many skeletons falling out that it wouldn't be funny from DPI, and that will be one place that will undergo a thorough investigation when the government changes. In fact, some of them, people ask me about their partisan position every day, using the resources of the state to go after people personally. And so I just said to them, I say to the people all the time that people in the future, you can easily differentiate what belongs to the state, what is state information, and what is personal, vindictive, vile propaganda. And maybe impute the cost of those, or check what the cost of those, and make people personally liable for them in the future. That's how I see it approaching. So we're not going to complain too much about what DPI is doing, because we already know DPI and Chronicle, that they're arms of the PNC and the AFC. I mean, nothing that you read in these places or hear from them has any element of objectivity. But what bothers me more about what the minister has done, here is a minister of housing publicly defending why the subcontractors have not been paid. She has no business doing that. The ministry should have a contract with the person who gets the tender, wins the tender. And I've gathered from what I heard today again, that it seems as though the tendering system was adjusted to give this gentleman some contracts. But the ministry can only deal with the contractor, not the subcontractor. But here is what the minister is saying now. As far as I know, a subcontractor by the name of Mr. Desmond Murphy was engaged by Mr. Yearwood in 2018, that's her husband. During the period of 6 weeks while we were overseas, the subcontractor did a lot of substandard work, which was rejected by CHPA, as well as several materials which were purchased by Mr. Yearwood and left in the possession of Mr. Murphy could not be accounted for. The defective works had to be corrected by the contractor, Mr. Yearwood, using his own finances. The subcontractor, therefore, could not be paid for these works. This is the minister defending the contractor now. who is her husband. And she said she doesn't know about this. So the minister is now in the role of the beneficiary of the contract, speaking about why the contract that they subcontracted out, the guy couldn't get paid. This is, as I said before, bizarre. Bizarre. We're still to find out how two ministers got nearly 3 plots of land on the East Bank to build their big houses since the government took office. And these are in schemes developed by the People's Progressive Party. We want to know if the land that they got was taken back from people. And they didn't get a single lot. They had several lots each. And what price they paid for their land on the East Bank. Because since the price you pay for the land is a critical thing, you know, Pradoville and everything else, we should find out about how these two ministers have done this. One is Trotman and the other one is Ferguson. The two persons. But I don't see much questions being asked about those issues. The next issue I want to deal with is what's happening at the airport and the fees that were introduced recently. So I just got a call from the airport and I saw a statement issued by IATA. The airlines now don't have a code from IATA to collect the new charges. So they have to now do that manually. And at the airport now there's confusion, if you call, because long delays, it's atrocious. What's going on at the airport? Terrible. What's going on? Big delays and stuff like that. And so these charges were sprung upon us. And without any consultation with the airlines or anyone else. And what are we paying back for? I traveled out of the airport in the last maybe 2 weeks, twice. And I get extremely angry every time I do so. Because I know what their contract was and what kind of airport we're supposed to receive. And I look what we are getting now, and it makes me angry, extremely angry, that we are being ripped off because of complicity with this ministry. This ministry, this new AFC government, has taken a project that was supposed to be a showpiece, an airport for the future, and shifted it, as the newspapers have been saying, into a rehabilitation project. Not just the runway, I come back. So I look at even the areas where the air bridges are supposed to be connect with the aircraft. And in the original design, we had to have 8 of those. And so you have to build the terminal building to accommodate 8, plus the apron to do that. So the parking areas for the parking apron for the aircraft. So by reducing from 8 to 4 now, not only are you reducing the number of air bridges, but you're reducing a substantial size of the airport, plus the apron on which those aircrafts have to stand. So at the best, when the airport was completed, we should have had an entirely new terminal building, the old one pulled down, a new terminal building from end to end with enough room on the terminal building to accommodate 8 standing aircrafts at the same time. Now it's gone to 4, and the terminal building is a rehabilitation work they're doing on the terminal building. We're not getting a new terminal building. it makes me really, really angry. I look at the quality of the material used, and again, it's the same issue. So this one here is a massive problem we're going to have here. And the ministry is so proud of it now, but it warrants a full-fledged investigation also. I've noticed that, let me just go through a couple of things more, and then I'll open up. So, SOCU. You've seen our position on SOCU. The corruption, we issued a party statement. I saw the Trade Union Congress saying we shouldn't call for a shutdown. But we don't want a shutdown of SOCU forever. You would recall that we were the ones who created the institution to support the FIU. So it could give the FIU some teeth to go forward with prosecutions, because no use, the Financial Intelligence Unit does investigations and you cannot charge people and take them to court. So that was how SOCU was established, under the authority of the Commissioner of Police to support a FIU. What has happened? The last Commissioner of Police said he doesn't know too much about what's going on at SOCU. Harman said they're putting in the budget of the Office of the President, the Ministry of the Presidency, money to top up the staff at SOCU, topping up the staff at SOCU. The staff at SOCU had been seen fraternizing with the ministers. They go to take instructions there. Became essentially a political body. In the meantime, it was engaged in a series of corrupt acts itself that has now come to light. And I believe facilitated by these ministers. They turned a blind eye to the corruption because the dog was doing what they wanted. So they turned a blind eye to the corruption. And that is why I'm saying it's not just SOCU, but Ramjatan should resign, because I think a lot of the instructions came directly from him. And so they turned a blind eye to the corruption there, because SOCU was doing. In the meantime, not a single drug dealer has been caught and charged, a big drug dealer. They have not filed a single case against anyone for money laundering, although they claim that Guyana was so full of laundered money, that the economy was being kept alive by laundered money. And so not a single case in 4 years. A free pass for all of that. In the meantime, guess who they're going after? Now, the government passed laws. So if you go to collect your $300 at Western Union, you now have to show proof of income. Your family send you $300, you're a farmer or a fisherman or a vendor or a public servant, they're harassing you. The people at the bottom disproportionately now have to come up with a whole range of proof that is causing about the source of their income when they're barely struggling to make a living. And this is causing more hardships for them, and it will cause disintermediation in the financial sector. If you are a farmer or, say, a minibus driver, and every time you go to open an account now, in the US, 15 minutes, you walk in, you open an account. Here it's a nightmare. I'm talking about people at the bottom, not the big guys. The big guys should face the brunt of the regulatory system. That's how it should be designed. But people at the bottom, they should make it easy for them to go and collect their $200 from Western Union, or to set up a bank account to deposit $50,000 a month or something like that. That is where the focus has been. Harassing everybody, poor people, etc., you jumping through hoops, and in the meantime, the prosecutorial arm of the FIU has not done anything except go after political opponents. That's what we want to end, to shut down that. Return the SOCU to its original mandate. When we said shut it down, we meant shut down this diversion from its mandate. That is what we want. And for them to focus on real cases of money laundering, real cases of drug trafficking, rather than to harass ordinary Guyanese. This is what they have done through their regulatory systems. And because they don't have to face this every day. The next thing I want to talk about is this Raphael Trotman, and the dual citizen matter. When I listen and I read what he's saying now, I want to vomit. It's as graphic as that. How low can you get? How dishonest can you get when you now love the diaspora so much? And before the 2015 elections, they went out there and told the diaspora, you will find jobs, we're going to include you, you're going to go into parliament, we're going to find a minister for the diaspora, a whole range of those things. They totally ignored the diaspora all those years in government, forgot their promises. They then went to the courts and challenged Jaron Dassey's dual citizenship. Not the PPP, they went and challenged the dual citizenship, APNU, AFC. And now the Trotman and the others didn't find it clear to say, what if the court rule against us on this matter? That are we going to harm dual citizens? Or we should not challenge this matter because in a principled way, we in the AFC believe that dual citizens should be in the parliament. But they went not just challenge it, but leading AFC members were talking about how the vote was illegal because of dual citizenship. And now Trotman, he wants to say he says it's an enlightened view to have people from abroad be members of parliament. I personally share some of the views, and I've said this before, that I don't see a problem, but that's a personal view. That's not a party view about people, all of our people, wherever they live, being able to contribute to the development of Guyana. And we must not exclude our own people, our diaspora. But we are not going to be convenient like Trotman and the others. And we are not going to do anything illegal. And so we will put in our manifesto, we will promise a process that could lead to constitutional reform in the future. A process like we did before the amendments or the constitutional changes of the early 2000s. We had a body established with 5 from the opposition, 5 from the government, and 10 from civil society. A broad-based body, and they went around the country, listened to people presented hearing. The Constitution doesn't belong to the PPP or APNU or AFC. The Constitution belongs to the people of Guyana. And we can't conveniently now go and do this. If the people of the country want it, then we must accept that. And we will outline a process that will deal with this issue in the future, but not be so dishonest like Trotman and suddenly shift our positions based on convenience. This is dishonesty at the highest level. They do it on the basis of convenience. Forestry Commission kind of has gone bankrupt under this government. Like so many things, this government has been bankrupting institutions, bankrupting them. So now the staff can't be paid there. They don't have money. And now they want to restructure, and they're putting a senior AFC official, a politician, to head the restructuring of the agency, an essentially technical agency. So he is heading that. But I suspect there are other motives behind the restructuring. I'm not going to speak about that now, but the staff of the Forestry Commission, they need to be paid, and they have to stop bleeding the Forestry Commission. This government is totally hopeless. Not only this is going to happen, but almost everything is going to be bankrupt. You just give them enough time. They just need a little bit more time to bankrupt everything. So this is just along the way, another institution that has become bankrupt along the way. Forestry Commission that was thriving, that had money in their coffers when we were there, that had made contributions back to the Treasury, now gone bankrupt. That made contribution to the Treasury. Totally. And I would urge that you look into this issue. You would have noticed that we filed a case yesterday. I think Mr. Nandalal pointed this out to you. And I noticed that the Chronicle suddenly is worried about preparation for elections, that we are trying to stymie preparation for elections. Imagine the Chronicle saying that. We are trying to stymie preparation for elections after the cabal over there, the 3+1 cabal, have refused to even start preparations. So let me tell you, and I repeat what I said before, that we will not expose the new government to any issue that can lead to a repeat of the situation that we had in 1997, where in 1996, the PPP and the PNC got together and they agreed that the ID card must be used to vote, and then that you had to have an ID card. We went to the elections, the PPP won the elections, and the same PNC, APNU, took the matter to court through Esther Pereira and claimed that the use of the ID card was illegal, unconstitutional. And the judge ruled that it was unconstitutional, and we lost 2 years of our term at that time. So now, the dual citizen issue had been, all the parties have accepted dual citizens being in Parliament for almost from the beginning of time. They then went to court to challenge the issue because one dual citizen voted against them. So they wanted to preserve the vote of all the other dual citizens, and they disqualified the vote of the one dual citizen who had voted against them. And now the matter is ruled by, they took it to the court. There's a court ruling on the matter from both courts, and now we have to comply with the court ruling that dual citizenship, something we did all those years, was illegal. All the parties did that, was illegal. So on this matter of house registration, in the early 2000, I think 2001, we passed a law about continuous registration, and in 2008, there was a house-to-house registration. But now, given that track record, first, there's the Pereira case, the one where the ID, and now their duplicitous, dishonest position with dual citizenship, We have to ensure that anything that GCOM does is constitutional, so that when they lose the elections, they do not go there. The same people who push for house-to-house registration now, PNC, will then, after the elections, when they lose it, they will come and argue that house-to-house registration was unconstitutional. And the arguments are, the Constitution says there are two conditions. One is if you're Guyanese and you're 18 years or above. These are the conditions for you to be registered or to vote, and to vote. And so that's what we're getting a ruling from the court on. If the court says it's okay, etc., that's a different matter. But that has to be clarified before you go to any house-to-house. We're now going to have the elections vitiated on house-to-house registration in the future because they've disenfranchised people, taking their names off the list, people who have traveled abroad, because that's what the house-to-house will do. And then somebody challenges it, and we lose another period in office. We're not going to tolerate, we're not going to do that. We are playing by the books now. We are going by the books. Everything, given this dishonest government, you have to do this. And by the way, the dishonesty just keeps growing. So what has happened to those ministers who we heard they resign and then they unresign, and now what is going on with them? I heard Rup Narain resign, but he was at the cabinet meeting in Berbice as a minister. And so what is going on? They're illegal now. The ministers are illegal, by the way. They're illegal, all of those ministers who hold dual citizenship. And by the way, Gail Teixeira has submitted her resignation, and Adrian Anamaya, and Odinga will do so shortly. So from the National Assembly, and I must say it's a sad thing, because a person like Gail Teixeira, I know how organizing this must be for her, having served the country, I think, over 25 years in Parliament, and you know the passion with which she has done so. She was our chief whip, and her contributions to the Parliament, one of the most knowledgeable persons in Parliament. And then to have to resign, but from a principled position, must be heart-wrenching, but she is a principled person. And we hope she will be on the list, because she's going to renounce, and she'll be on the list in the future. So this is not the end of her career in the National Assembly, but I just wanted to say that, about Gail Teixeira. But she did it. And we would never expect the same thing from that group. So this brings me to another issue. By the way, I heard that the Industry Plaisance NDC, that's controlled by APNU, has just decided to raise the rates and taxes from 35 to 70%, depending on the kind of building you have. Commercial would be higher, residential lower, and also other fees. We have made it clear that in every single area that the PPP won, and there are large numbers of NDCs, that there'll be no tax increase. We're not bringing additional burden to the taxpayers. So I want to urge the residents of Industry Plaisance to come out and go and tell those APNU councillors at the NDC, because they did this quietly. Our councillors are opposed to it, to go and say to them that we are not in favor of any increase in rates and taxes. The residents have to stand up against this happening. The people of Industry Plaisance, all of those who live in that area. At the tender board, I think some newspapers had carried about what's going on at the tender board, but it's terrible. So if you look at, I have some information that this, since a couple, April 1st, Chronicle, they had an amended, an old contract, an advertisement that came out since March. It was amended in the Chronicle for dietary at President's College. Yesterday, the people went, all those who tendered, and they were told that the tender is canceled. The vibes we are getting from the Ministry of Education is that they've identified some friends and family again to give the contract to, share it. It could be as much as 200 million. They'll split it up. And so they put out a notice to tender. Everybody, people tendered. They showed up yesterday at the tender board and are told that we're canceling the tender now. That is a pattern. That's what I'm saying here. It's not an outlier. It's not an anomaly. It is a pattern. Every single day. The ministers are all on a hustle. It just came out that a couple are in the public domain now, but there are others who are doing a lot of stuff that it would yet be, we have to reveal. There are tons and tons of things to be revealed in the future. And I urge people to do this, to expose them to. I know a lot of people have been coming here, and I want to assure you that your information will be treated anonymously about what's going on in a lot of these places, the corruption in many of these places. Let me deal just with two more things, and then I'll end here. On the Felix matter, Felix has raised more concerns than he has given answers to issues for me, personally. And all those numbers that he gave, the people who disappeared from the country without his knowledge, came in and disappeared, he just said, oh, they moved on. Never mind, they cannot captured by our immigration records. They just came in and they moved on to French Guyana. But we believe they moved through Guyana with help. They moved through Guyana with help from the airport, from Haiti, where they are recruited, all the way to the airport, where they're collected, and then they pay fees and then get moved through the country. That's why we said trafficked through Guyana. And we believe that ministry is at the center of it. And it's a multi-million dollars business. And then we are aware of people who have come here, who have no ties to Guyana, absolutely none, who are foreigners, who have no ties to Guyana. They're not like, our people who you might be born of a Guyanese parent or something like that. These are our people. But people who have no ties to Guyana, within a year, they get their citizenship. Within a year. In fact, one group, as I was told, got it within a week or something like this. So I would urge that we continue to watch carefully what's going on in that ministry, because I believe we're going to be faced with a scandal of enormous proportions, and you should not be surprised when that happens. Now, we have, I was in Washington. I was in Washington for, did I speak about Trinidad and Tobago? No, I didn't deal with that, but let me deal with Washington first. I was in Washington and New York for a few days. Whilst in Washington, as you know, it's in the public domain that we contracted a public affairs firm, Mercury. We're very happy with the firm. We're happy with its credentials. We're happy that the firm is a bipartisan firm, both Democrats and Republicans. And we're very pleased. We badly needed a presence in Washington, because a lot of the opinions formed in the U.S. or in Washington from many organizations, including the multilateral financial institutions, the OAS, and of course the U.S. government, could be tainted by the lies that APNU have been telling in these areas, or the misrepresentation of issues. So we have to have a presence there so that we can have access to those bodies, so we can bring a balance to what is being peddled in those circles. And therefore, we took this step as a party to have that presence, and we're going to continue with it. We're going to continue with that presence, and we'll continue to engage with U.S. policymakers. When I was there, I met with senior functionaries from both the executive branch of the government as well as the legislative branch of the government. And so we'll continue to do that. I think I will end there. Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry about the contract signed with Marjorie.
Yes.
We need to understand that 34 million was paid upfront. How was this money handed over? Was it transferred?
Transfer from there.
All of that entire sum was able to be transferred? Oh, so they...
Banking, through the banking system.
Oh, okay.
Through the banking system.
Not that we fetched it up. You should check with some of the guys now who are fetching money in bags from this government. We didn't fetch it to Washington through the banking system.
Collecting money for your campaign already? Or did the PPP have that money just lying?
Oh, you want to know the source of our funds? You sound like the government. Well, yeah, it's the PPP collects, raises funds through donations, and like any other party, and that's where we fund these from. We don't use state funds. Mm-hmm.
And this is purely donations?
Yes, donations.
What's quick stock news? The funds that you were talking about, will your legal fees for these various no confidence matters come from those donations as well?
Yes, the party has to pay. Unlike the government is paying from the treasury. The party has to pay for the legal fees for lawyers on the no confidence motion. The party has to pay for the public affairs firm, etc. That is party's responsibility. In fact, APNU should have been paying for these things. But I believe that this Video Mega, and let me go on, the Video Mega Limited, since it was the key part of their campaign in 2015. It was placing ads and it was getting money flowing through that Video Mega Limited. That the Video Mega Limited is now being resurrected or being given some of these contracts to fund their campaign too, as they've been siphoning off money from the APNU has been siphoning money from every head in the budget, and you're going to see how much it is and the expenses later. They're paying for T-shirts and stuff like that under the guise of the ministry, but all of these things are green. They're buying 3,000 green T-shirts for a campaign on health. 3,000, but you only use 50. Etc. And then the rest will go to Congress Place. So we know what's going on. So let me come back to the key issue. Everything comes from donation to the people. Yeah. When I'm in New York, we raise funds. You see fundraisers in New York. People pay $20 to come to a fundraiser and stuff. I didn't do any here, but this is an ongoing thing in Canada, in the UK, in the US, you constantly see it advertised. It's not any secret.
And secondly, just one last question. Secondly, you said that the...
And by the way, we have a GoFundMe site too. Please donate. Please donate if you want to make a donation. All the members of the media, we'd love it. It's a GoFundMe site. Right, please. So I'm making a pitch now to you and all of Guyana through you here. Please make a donation to the People's Progressive Party. It's for a good cause. It's a fight for democracy. Please make a donation to our GoFundMe site.
The resignations from Parliament, has the party decided on replacement? And I know next week Friday is a sitting, and I know you previously said that the party will not be attending. Is there a change of heart?
There's no change of heart, and we have not decided on replacement.
Okay, on video, Michael, you said in your opening statement that this deserves a police investigation. Would the PPP be making a complaint to the police, or you're just hoping that the police just go after it?
I hope, do we have to complain about everything to the police? Okay. Do we have to, it seems as though the obligation for transparency in this country has now shifted over, that burden has shifted to the PPP, ordinary citizen. Yes, we are carrying it. We are carrying it every single day, but you should be helpful. You could call the Commissioner of Police and say, now this is in the public domain.
But are you, your
We,
party?
yes, we are prepared to do that.
Okay.
We're not backing down from anything.
Okay, and on the matter you spoke about earlier about having funding with that for these dinners and stuff, I know that if campaign takes off soon, you have to do more of this. Has Air Finale been able to sort out the issue with the Canadians so that he can go to Canada?
I have not had a recent briefing about him, but I hope that it's all related to that case. It's all related to that Soku case. And I hope that now that the Canadians see how political Soku has been, that they would realize that it's a frivolous thing.
Rather than Prime Minister.
Yes,
Jagdeo. Sir, could you say what role do you envisage for Mr. Robert Prasad in current and ongoing political activities? And sir, what is the duration of the contract with the U.S. firm? And should the PPP well again, will it further be contracted by your administration like Fully Gold had been after '92? And what are some of the key issues this firm will be tackling for your party in Washington?
Yeah, sure. So Robert Prasad has no role in the campaign at this time.
At this time?
Yes, at this time. At this time, or Robert Prasad will, as far as I'm concerned, he has not indicated that he wants to play a role in the campaign. So I would just speculate about anything because he has not made that indication that he wants to play a role. Secondly, we didn't hire, we had a retainership with that Foley Hogue company. And by the way, this government is using that same company for some of the work done in the telecommunications sector. The duration of the contract is in the document that you have. The contract itself, right now it's defined, it's limited. The duration is limited. We will decide at the end of this period, I think it comes to an end by next month. We will decide at the end of that period whether we want to renew or not. But all of this you can find in the document that is in the public domain that has to be filed in the U.S. system. You know, that is how. It's not secret. Everything you do, you have to file. And so anybody, any Guyanese can go and access this information. In the future, I can't speak about the future. The key issues being just not on the campaign. It is about the advising on our presence in Washington and ensuring that our views are heard by the U.S. policymakers at every level. That is a critical part.
And quickly to follow up on my first
Right,
question.
sure.
Mr. Prasad, if he offers to be part of the campaign, will you accept it?
That is for the party to decide, but you know, we have said, I have asked people who voted PNC to come to us. I go every day because we have a vision for Guyana. And these are people who voted for APNU because I believe there is a space in our party we're accommodating. People who voted for AFC in the last elections, they are now campaigning with us, etc. There is a space for anyone who wants to. PPP is not exclusionary. That is my personal view. What role he plays if he expresses that interest is a different matter for the party. But I'm just saying that this is, I don't want to say we'll accept, we're arguing at the party level that we embrace everyone. And then in one case, we want to exclude somebody. So that is how I see it.
What relations do you think you and him improved over the months?
Robert Prasad he is an individual. He is right now not part of the PPP. And therefore, I don't have to improve relations with anyone or not. Not that we had a breakdown of relations. I didn't realize that we had a breakdown of relations. It's just that he said he wanted, even before the elections, to take a sabbatical. I recall that clearly before 2015 elections, him saying that over and over, I want to take a sabbatical from politics. And that's it. He did. And so he said that pre-2015 elections.
Mr. Jagdeo, good morning. Good afternoon, sir. Could you say whether the fallout with Mr. Prasad was related to some financial issues the party experienced following the 2006 elections, I think, when he served as the campaign manager? Could you say it was related to that? And could you say it was also related to him not disclosing everything with relation to the oil find in the run-up to the last election? Did those...
That's pure speculation. That's pure speculation.
Or was there a money issue after 2006?
No, that's never came up at the leadership of the party. In fact, the general secretary controls the purse of the party. And what I've done since I became general secretary, I shouldn't be saying this, but I have removed myself from all signing. So I don't sign checks anymore. And I'm not a signatory to any bank account. So that has been a change from what was there before. But general secretaries control the financing in the past. Now we have an executive secretary who manages the party. I don't want to get into day-to-day management of party. I don't want to get to look after gas and sign checks and all of that. So that management, day-to-day management of the party is done by the executive secretary. And then I get reports, budget, monthly statement of expenditure and income and everything else, our donations. I review these. I make sure that our bank accounts are okay. That is that, the balance is on the account, but not in day-to-day sort of thing. So there was none of that came about. It's just speculation. People keep speculating. It's like opening up a new front that isn't really a front at all. It is, every time we hammer the government for real corruption, I get some phantom coming up from the past, about somebody else. This government, I can list 15 things that if the media only vigorously pursues, then now everyone would conclude that Granger is presiding over the most corrupt government ever in our history. I can list 15 things, but they get a free pass on some of these things. Free pass, nobody pays attention. 15 issues I can sit here now, how they have subverted all the systems. So that, there was never any issue of that. Financial issues in the party, never an issue of money issue in the party. And two, it had nothing to do with the oil find. I think Ramatar went on the rig and visited the rig and everything like that before.
And sir, with regard to Mercury, two things. Could you say if the decision to hire this company got the full approval of your party's executive? And secondly, sir, this company has been charged and fined in the U.S. in relation to some ethics violations in addition to being part of the probe, being looked at in relation to interference in the American elections, do you really feel comfortable with a firm like this being attached to the party of Chedi Jagan?
Oh, really? The party of Chedi Jagan now? I'm concerned about party of Chedi Jagan. I see where this comes from. So the thing is that this matter, hiring a firm, was discussed at the level of the executive of the party. And secondly, I'm very happy with Mercury Public Affairs. I've reviewed their work. They're a very effective firm. And that's what we need, an effective firm to counter the lies being told by APNU in Washington.
Do you think you get your money's worth of $34 million?
We're getting every cent of it worth. Every cent worth is worth it.
Could you say whether the group has already written to the OAS on your behalf or has formulated documents just putting OAS on your behalf on the political situation in Guyana?
I will brief you further when the elections come on these matters. The thing is that I'm not going to share all the details of our engagement and so the day-to-day working of the company, but they're working on our behalf. We have seen evidence of this. I believe we're getting our views in to all the circles that matter so that when the lies come from Guyana through the various sources and from the government, that people can ask the right questions of them. And so one thing I've gotten out of Washington from the executive branch, the senior functionaries I met there, as well as from the Congress, that they will pay careful attention to Guyana and support free and fair elections, whatever the outcome of the CCJ case. That's one thing that they're clear about. And that's all that the PPP wants. All the PPP wants is free and fair elections in Guyana. That's what we're lobbying for. It's a shame that we have to, in the 21st century, go to Washington to lobby for free and fair elections because of this government transgression, refusal to accept a no-confidence vote, install one of their persons in the GCOM, violating the Constitution and 25 years of history, threatening democracy once again. It's a shame that today we have to do this, spend our money to go and lobby for free and fair elections. It's an indictment on them. They should pay us back. They should pay for the firm. APNU should be paying us for hiring this firm. Yes.
Okay, Kaiser News.
Yes.
Sir, you've been pushing an anti-corruption position for some time. Aren't you not concerned with the fact that Mercury has a past that is stained by corruption? It's been fined by the Ethics Committee of California, and it's also implicated in the Robert Mueller report.
Yeah.
Aren't you not concerned about what this company's past could mean in terms of weakening your stance that you've been pushing
Sure.
for so many months?
I've looked through all of those issues. I've seen the company versus a partner in the company who had issues. But then I've looked at the bipartisan nature of the company. That was critical for us. It's bipartisan. And two, that it is effective. And it's an effective firm. And that is all I'm concerned with at this stage.
So that also is
No, I don't. That is the U.S. If you go to almost every firm in the U.S., you find me one that is pristine, that will, none of these issues have appeared. If this U.S. system works, if anybody in these firms that have to register it's not like any part of the world. If they're lobbying on behalf of someone, they have to register who they're doing so on behalf of. If they violate anything in that registration, that ethics, the U.S. system picks it up and deals with it. That's it. So the mere fact that this firm is still operating in Washington and is very effective, means it's in good standing. It's in good standing for me. And that's all. Yes.
You said earlier that your position, your concern is free and fair elections, and sadly you have to go to the U.S. to ensure that this is done. But this is a company that has been implicated in tampering with the free and fairness of the elections.
Oh, really? I didn't know that the company, yes, the company, it is a bit, you should research carefully. And I'm telling you, I did the research too. And that's why I'm pointing out the difference between one partner of the firm versus the firm. So when you look at the difference, then you will speak back to me. So about implications. In fact, I'm not sure that they found the Mueller probe just completed. And the finding is there's no, that President Trump he's been exonerated. Well, he's been exonerated. Well, you go and Trump is guilty for you. For me, I will go based on what the U.S. reports say. Okay, well then you take that up. You take that. I've seen all of the media writing on the report. I've heard what the Mueller said himself. So a summary. So you believe, the media here believes Trump is guilty. I'm not judging what's going on in the U.S. I'm concerned about Guyana and the transgression of Granger government that is violating our Constitution, that refuses to accept a no-confidence motion, that has a government that's stealing all of our money. I'm concerned that are we losing jobs here? I'm concerned we're losing welfare. Crime is increasing. You all go and argue about whether Trump is guilty of a probe or not. That's your business. That's not mine. Mine is to make sure we have free and fair elections, a fair system. That is what I'm concerned about, which you should be concerned about. Oh, really?
We already won.
Really? No, it is not. It is not. It is not. It is not. I just said to you, it's an indictment on this corrupt government. That this government is threatening democracy in 2019, when it is the condition around which most governments operate around the world. This government keeps setting new standards. We looked around at the Commonwealth since 70 years now in the Commonwealth and can't find an analogous situation where a government loses a no-confidence vote, accepts it, recognizes that 33 is needed to pass it, relied on 33 all along, and then 2 weeks later say, oh, we change our minds? Yeah, which is, we're dealing with a different sort of animal here. Sure. In Guyana, this is the undemocratic animal here. So we are happy. We're happy with the firm that we have recruited. We're happy that they're bipartisan firm. We're happy that this firm is effective, and we believe they will get the message out to Washington, which is one for free and fair elections as a universal value, and we believe that with their help we can counter their lies. That's the end of the matter. You can speculate, the Chronicle and everyone else can speculate as much as you want. That's our position in the PPP. We're doing this for Guyana. We're paying money from the PPP for Guyana.
Mr. Jagdeo.
Yes.
You said one of the things you said just now is that one of the reasons you have to hire this firm is to get your message across to the OAS and all the other organizations in Washington. I think my concern, and I think what Mr. Mosey was trying to ask too, the fact that you cannot get the message across yourself and that you need a firm, does this speak to the standing that the PPP has with these organizations?
Sure. No, because the government has a permanent presence in Washington. It's commonsensical. They have an embassy, they have a representative to the OAS. They're peddling bills all the time, every day. I'm here in Ghana struggling, having to face a police for calling somebody jackass or something, police interrogation. That is what, we're not there. We're not there. You need to have a presence in Washington to counter their lies.
Regular Prime News. Sir, on April 26th, there will be a sitting in Parliament. Is the opposition position still that you will not attend? Also, I didn't hear about your
Yeah, go ahead.
your trip to Trinidad and any critical meetings. Sir, and since December 21, have you met with Charandas Prasad one-on-one? That's something I'd like to know. And you mentioned the Guyana Forestry Commission building. That commission also spent $400 million with the GGMC in 2012 for something, a building that they really never got any value out of, the history building.
Yeah.
I mean, would that also be a waste
Oh, right.
that led to their
No,
history?
because they had a hefty bank account when we left office. A hefty bank account. You check it and you will see large sums of money. This government has transferred money from that bank account and they're not getting income because of what's happening in the sector, the collapse of the sector. And so that is why they have bankrupted this institute, the Guyana Forestry Commission. I have not met with Charandas before on a one-on-one, before the no confidence motion, nor have I met with him after the no confidence motion, one-on-one, or even in a group. Right.
And Parliament, you're not with
Huh?
the Parliament?
No, yes, I think I dealt with that issue. No, we will not go on the 26th.
Sir, at your town hall style meeting in New York over the weekend, you insinuated that a member of the media was paid to carry the story on air finales, qualifications or lack thereof. Sir, you always speak about deductive reasoning, and you did mention Julia Johnson's name at your press conference here, and that is why I concluded that that is the person you've been insinuating.
Yeah, but you should have asked me.
Sir, but
Right.
you talk about deductive reasoning all the time.
Okay.
So what evidence do you have that any media, any member of the media have been paid to carry such a story?
Well, that is why I said you should have asked me. But it is, I think the GPA owes me an apology. You should have asked, who did I mean? There was somebody in that audience. That's why I said, this is your statement, that the whole thing about credibility, qualification, etc., it was started by one newspapers. No, then I said, not a newspaper person. Not a newspaper, a person who was paid. So how do you jump from a person who was paid? No, not a newspaper person. A person who was paid. I know somebody in that audience that I was referring to immediately who came there to stir up issue.
But Mr. Jagdeo, you
Uh,
said not to-
right?
you said broke
Huh?
the story.
No. Did I,
Because,
in
that statement,
not-
you went on to say broke the story.
You did, sir.
the thing is that, well, that is how this media, the press association has to have some credibility. You could have easily asked me, this is what I said. This is from your quotation. I'm looking at your press statement. Your press statement, this is it here. And it says that, it didn't say that in that story, I went on to say the person who broke the story. I'm quoting from your press statement.
So then who's the person?
The person, I don't have to tell you that, but you have to ask me. I said, not a newspaper person. Not a newspaper person. That meant it, no, it could be how many other, the entire country is maybe 99% of the country and not in the media. It could be anyone else, and I know of people who have done that. They were part of a campaign. They were part of a campaign before. And so that is why I think you owe me an apology. The GPA should do the decent thing and say, now that we've clarified, we have asked me now, and I said it was not referring to any member of the media, then you should now say, we're sorry we issued this press statement now that Ms. Jagdeo has clarified. I did not, and you're referring to a case here where I said a person who was paid, a person, not by name. I said actually not a newspaper person, but newspaper is synonymous for media for me. And that is what I meant there. So now that you have done that, could you please, you're quick to jump on all of these issues without even asking, why don't you do the fair thing about, you talk about balance, etc. Call and say, were you referring to a member of the media? And had I said yes, the statement would have been justified. But you did not do the same thing you accuse, no, you do not do the same thing you accuse people of, that is fair and balanced criticism. You did not do that. You could have asked me one question, and then had I said, yes, I was talking about a newspaper person, you could have issued it. Now you've asked me, I said, no, it is not. What do you do? But you've already issued this, tainting me, and when that was not what I meant. When would you practice what you preach about fairness? I can't,
You named the person and you also made a statement at the very
anyhow,
very
this is
end.
not a market. I just said. No, because 4 persons speaking at the same time. It's a press conference. So I just said to you, if you had only asked me, call and said, were you referring to the person you were referring to that you did not name? Was it a press person? You also said, I saw you said not a newspaper person, but a person. Did you mean a media? No. We can. Oh, you know. So you're basing on conjecture. A whole statement. So I want the country to see the fairness that you practice. Yes, the fairness that you say you practice. I did not mention a single name, but you issue a statement on that. Okay.
Be open to making public a disaggregated register of campaign donations for the next election cycle?
I said already that we're in favor of campaign finance reform, that should we have a law, we'll comply with it, and we work towards it with the government. I made that very early. I was asked by the Kaichor News, I think, this was about 3 years ago, nearly 3 years, and I said, yes, we're prepared to work on it. Yeah, but we're not going to do it if the others are not doing it. We will, why should we, the People's Progressive Party? You ask APNU, the last elections that they asked about who, they said they will disclose this. They didn't. We never made that commitment. Oh, we are the bigger party now. Yeah, we are the bigger party.
You have said that the PPP is separate. It's not like the APN.
Yes. We are separate. We have a better policy perspective. Corruption was minimal compared to the others, but we're not stupid. We're better and bigger and separate, but we're not stupid too. Right, the BBP. So the thing is that when there's a law that we have to comply with, we will comply with it. I can understand, and what I said further, I said we are prepared to support legislation now to ensure that oil companies do not contribute to campaign. Yes, no, but we are prepared to do that oil companies do not make any contribution to campaign. We're prepared tomorrow, and we don't need legislation. There must be a pact. We can sign something together, all the parties, saying that no oil company should contribute to any campaign for the elections. We're prepared to do that now. Okay? If you ask the others, ask the PNC and AFC if they're prepared to do that, then we can get an independent party to put it together, and we will sign to that. We'll sign to that. That is something positive I'm telling you about, because they're larger companies that this thing.
To whom were these checks that you said Kathy, you signed written to?
Would you mind, the people don't want to be exposed. They would have given me a copy of the check, but given the vindictive nature of this government. And that is precisely what that will happen to anybody that we release, say in campaign. If a person, a businessman gives you $40,000 and his name is exposed, and the next thing is GRA will go after him, and Amna Ali or the Congress place would start harassing him. This is what, in that context, you cannot disclose people's name, because the vindictive nature of this government, they will harass those people.
So you're not in favor of making these things public?
No, unless there is a law that regulates the sector, so that it, like the US, where every donation made, it goes in a public register. So you have to file it and stuff like that. But because of the vindictive nature of the PNC, we just can't. But yeah, Dennis, you were saying.
Yeah, I was asking to whom the checks were written. And,
Yes, I think I answered that.
How many checks?
I did not ask, but I got the info. But ask her if she's denying it. It's simple. Did you sign checks for Video Mega Production Limited as late as last year? Late last year. Did you sign? That's all you have to ask. And how is it that you claim? If the answer is yes, how is it you claim you gave up the day-to-day running of the company since May 2015? And then it's a simple question to her. And then maybe if she says no, then maybe I can try to get a copy of the check for you. Okay? Thank you very much. By the way,